This video is going to show you another solo Grandmaster Nightfall getting Platinum rank and showing you how to farm for the ADEPT WENDIGO Grain Launcher Heavy, which by now I'm sure we're all tired of hearing on how important it is to farm it, but it really is. I know people are saying they're getting tired of hearing that, but it seriously is an important heavy GL. That and Typhoon, the stasis one. So basically, what you're wanting to do as you start is melt the overload. Well, try to melt. I'm having issues with frame rate with the heavy linear Sleeper Simulant on PS5. I don't know if anyone else is. Like, that's what was struggle at making me basically miss shots. But if you stand over this left hand side like that, you can literally melt down the overload. And actually, I'd advise that you just spam your shots, right? Now Sleeper holds 13 shots total. It's a little on the low side, we know this, but there's a mod called Loosen Finisher Up, which allows you to essentially spam heavy ammo. There's that many champions in this that you can do that. So you saw there, I skipped all those ads. Just take the route that I just did, right? The build that we're using is the standard Starfire protocol build that you would see anyone use. Might be differences on fragments, but it's the basic setup that you would, well, it's not basic, but it's the setup that you would see, right? So if you need to know specifically fragments aspects, just watch the 30 seconds of the video. Weapons wise, obviously I recommend Sleeper Simulant. It's so good in this. I didn't realize how good it was. I didn't realize how good it was going to be in this. It's so good. Now you can use your God Roll Cataclysmic, but I think Cataclysmic's better when you use them with a Horde. So that would mean you're going to put on with a Horde, right? You know, with the 4 times with the bait and switch and stuff. I mean, there's other weapons you could use, I suppose. So Cataclysmic is going to do work for you because it hasn't got nerfed yet. It is. But what has most people got in their vaults? Sleeper Simulant. It's a very common weapon, and it's not getting nerfed next season. It's indirectly getting buffed. Well, it's not getting changed, but you can count it as a buff in a sense because it's not getting nerfed. So it's going to hold its damage it does now. Standard linears are not going to hold their damage. Queenbreaker's getting the buff as well. Queenbreaker is getting a buff because its blind's changed. That will put Sleeper in like one of the top spots for use. Definitely. Just because of the damage that it does. So with this first unstoppable, this is the issue, isn't it? Because we're using barrier overload, we have no unstop. Unfortunately, it's not unstoppable solo melee, it's unstoppable arc melee. That's why I done a Chaos Reach run that you saw earlier in the week, which worked out fantastic, but that run only works out good if you're going to cheese the boss. This is not a cheese run in any sense. I haven't done any cheese at all. It's just a legit run, and this is how you would actually farm it. I mean, you could farm it with the exploit. There's no difference, is there? Remember, there's no pride with farming. You people out there who are farming, don't have any pride in this. You're just looking for the weapon. Alright? Cheese, no cheese, I'm not against it. Either or. As long as you're not using flat-out cheats or Cronus Sen and all this sort of stuff, then it's fine. It's just a little exploit that I've showcased earlier on in the week. This time, I'm not using any exploits, which you'll see when we get to the run. Well, if you saw the previous video, then you'll know what the particulars are with it. So we're going to melt this charm. I could have used heavy. I just used Empowering Rifts, fusion grades. I just used my Adaptive Munitions Pulse. See, the Adaptive Munitions Pulse that I'm using is really good because it's getting that shield break quickly, and it means you're getting to DPS quicker. You know, and if you're getting scorch damage on them and stuff like that, it's just obviously the best in slot, I think. That's why I've been using an Adaptive Munitions Pulse all week on Warden. And I also think Staccato, the Solar Legendary Scout, is also best in slot because it's a legendary weapon, frees up my exotic slot, and it's doing everything that I would want it to do. And we've got Loosen Finisher, so you can spam heavy. So that's why I think Sleeper's a top contender in this one, just because of that. The issue is the unstoppables, right, on this loadout. So we're going to have Sleeper overpower the Unstoppables without unstoppable rounds, because we have no ability of unstoppable stopping champs with abilities yet properly, apart from what's on the artifact this season. But there's nothing linked for solar, so you're going to use your well to kill unstoppables that are critical ones. Like this one right here is not a critical one. You can see I can deal damage from range. Spam sleeper here and there because you are going to get ammo back off this champ. So you get your finisher kill, you get 4 shots back. Yeah? So if you use 4 shots, or if you maybe use a bit more than that, it's fine. You're going to recuperate your heavy. This run is really good to do because of that loosen finisher. Without loosen finisher sleeper, I might struggle a little bit. You'd have to be more conservative. My playstyle would change a little bit. But remember, we're using double primary. Why is that important? Well, because it means you're going to get more heavy as well. If I incorporate like a grenade launcher in, say, or a special weapon in the mix, I wouldn't get as much heavy because of it. But does that matter? Not too much, because loosen finishes up. So if you want to try the trick on where you can kill barriers with a grenade launcher only, because unstoppable rounds keep staggering them over and over, do that. Just know that you're going to be spamming that ammo on that GL. Is it viable to just do that, or just use a barrier weapon? In my experience, just use the barrier weapon. Just use the barrier weapon and have well of Radiance overpower the unstoppables. It's not a big deal to kill them, seriously, especially with all the buffs that we've got. Radiant, high energy fire, counter charge. We've got Font of Might, Elemental Ordnance, Solar Acute, Burn. We've got too much going for us that the unstoppables aren't a threat. Well, there will be a threat if you don't know how to control them, which that's what I'm going to show you in this video, of course, because that's where I feel as though people are going to have issues with the unstops, because they're like, oh, I can't stun them. So that means you've got to do a bit of playmaking. Yeah, you've got to maneuver them about. So I popped a well here. I've actually decided to kill the barrier on right hand side because I hate this barrier on right. So look at that, 2 shots got the champion almost killed with sleeper. Sleeper's doing massive damage in this. I think the top 2 picks, if I'm being honest, for Warden are Xenophage and Sleeper. If we admit that Cataclysmic isn't in the game, those 2 are the best. Galley's alright, but I've showcased how Galley isn't as good. But if you're in a team, Galley's top notch. If you want to run 2 solar rockets and a Galley, right, you're going to melt stuff. But again, the strategy changes when you're solo, because you're on your own. You need to do the damage. So things change dependent. Galley isn't as good solo as it is a team exotic. Galahorn has turned into a team exotic, in my opinion. I did showcase it off. I showcased it off on the Hunter, so if you're interested on the Galley run, I've got a Galley run up on the channel, but I don't think it's as good. I honestly don't think it's as good as the Sleeper, or definitely not Xenophage. So we've got to finish a kill on that barrier on the left, because I want to have some heavy to recuperate, because I want to spam a bit of heavy on this Void Shield. It's very important that you do this. That might look like a waste of ammo to you, but it's not, because if there's 2 Void Shields alive, one will push you eventually. If you fight from the stairs, one will stay. If you kill one of the Void Shields, the other Void Minotaur will not be confident to push you. This is not me just telling you random stuff. This is an actual thing. Try it out yourself. Leave the 2 Void Shields up and fight from here. See what happens. The Void Minotaur will sneak up behind you and melee you, and that's not what you want, because we know in GMs you do take an excessive amount of damage from melee damage. I'm going to pop a well here, which I probably didn't need to do this. I probably would have been better saving a well, but it also is fine to do, right? It's just that obviously there's 2 unstoppables in the next room, and what is it that's powerful for this loadout against unstoppables? Well, it's our well, and I've just used it, but I will get it for the second unstoppable. So I will be still having a well in the next room. It just won't be for the first, it'll be for the second. There was an ammo brick there somewhere. It's gone missing. I don't know. I haven't got patience to go look for it. The trains have knocked it somewhere. It's got to be, because there was a brick back there, I remember, and it's gone. I don't know. It'll be in that room somewhere, but I ain't got time to be looking for it. So that was unfortunate. So I've got 6 shots instead of 10. I haven't got ammo finder bricks on, so I haven't got linear fusion ammo finder, which is actually working out in our favour a little bit because you're gonna sometimes get 1 shot off a linear fusion, 1 or 2, and a full brick's gonna give us 4. So you don't put ammo finder on. Put on ashes to assets on the helmet with some sort of either solo operative, high energy fire, counter charge, whatever you're fitting in on that helmet. Like you saw the build at the start, how I've. So obviously you got the high energy fire, counter charge working together. So when you stun a champ, you get charge of light. Yes. I've also got elemental ordnance. When you get a grenade kill, you spawn an elemental well. Combine that with font of might. I get 10 seconds of increased damage, which does stack with well, but I wasn't allowed to. You don't need to fully spec into font of might. I just put that as an extra benefit. To be honest, firepower would have been better. Running it back, haven't seen it now. I would have been better with firepower, if I'm being honest. The font of might, yeah, it's all right, but it's only better when you really spec into it and have loads of font of mites. But that means you've got no counter charge energy fire, and counter charge energy fire is too good to pass up. You can just melt champs because of this. So even though the font of mites are higher buff, your run will be slower because you're getting less buffs, right? People always think automatic the higher buff is a better buff. Not always. There's conditions. There's requirements. This is what you're going to have to look into when Nightfall comes out as well. Look into all the builds. Look at the top players. Look at what they're running. Don't go with what people say on Reddit. They get it wrong. I read stuff on Reddit all the time. They get it wrong. I just shake my head. Because I know they're not. Some people get it right. Some people are really good on there. But there's some idiots as well knocking about. We know this. So just stay true to the people that you support in terms of who does the good builds. Just check out Cross. See what he's running. Check out the top solo players. See what they're running. And then you know. Then you know what you're working with. Don't just go on Reddit and believe what the masses say. So like I said, I'm gonna have this well for the second unstop. I'm just getting a little bit more energy. And we're just about there. I've only got 5 sleeper shots, but again, I'm gonna be able to recuperate a bit of heavy. So I'm not gonna use, I don't think I use much heavy on this unstoppable. I prioritize my nades because we're using Starfire protocol, of course. So I'll do 2 fusion grenades and then just spam any weapon. So I'll use the Frosty because it's a faster fire rate than the Scout. So I can get a little bit more grenade energy back. So I'm just going to keep doing the pulls, fusion grenade pulls. You get so much time with well. This unstoppable is not killing me. This strategy though of taking this unstoppable quite slow is not true for an unstoppable at the mine section. You need to rush that one. This one I'm not timed, for obvious reasons. I'm not timed, so I just need to get that champ finishable. I didn't use a single heavy shot on purpose so that we're in a better position, and now we've got 8 shots. So it just takes a little bit of courtesy of managing your ammo a little bit, not too much. Like, don't get me wrong, you're not really managing your ammo because you've got nearly infinite ammo, haven't you, really, to be honest. It's just using your common sense a little bit. When you're in a well, why do you need to use sleeper there? You don't. Coming up though, you definitely do, which is that will be critical. That's the most critical part of the run. That and the boss fight, because we're not cheesing the boss fight, of course. There's many cheeses on the boss fight. It's actually interesting, so I'll just quickly cover the cheeses because people aren't aware of all these cheeses. So when you get to the boss fight, if you're looking towards the boss, on the left hand side up at the top there's a cheese. The middle of the room there's a cheese that you can crawl in this pipe. And there's also the floor cheese that I have used in the previous week. So 3 cheeses. But there's also another cheese where if you emote into a wall, all adds will de-aggro. Very similar to Fallen Saber where you capture the War Mine stat and you use a cherry emote or some sort of emote like that to de-aggro all adds. This can be done anywhere in the game. Scarlet Keep, like, you could take anywhere in the game and emote into a wall and it makes all the adds passive, essentially. You can do that if you want, but you don't need to do that. It's a good strategy, but why use 2 wells when you can use 1? Which I'm going to show you now on this run. So yeah, you don't need to do that. What you need to do is the technique I'm going to use. But obviously this is well Pacific. It's Warlock Pacific. If you're doing it on a Hunter, you're going to have to change up. You're going to have to go all in damage, aren't you? You're going to have to go Star Eater skills and stuff like this. Or maybe Celestial Nighthawk. And you're going to have to go all in damage. You're going to have to do a build. Same for Titans. You're going to have to go all in. So this video is particular to well. And Warlock's the best this week. If you're just looking at the legit clears, Well Radiance is the best run. Because it's best for melting the boss. And remember, when you're building out a loadout for a Nightfall, you need to think of the entire run. You need to have it in your vision of the entire run. Does this loadout work for every area of the run? Some loadouts might tick the boxes for getting to the boss, like Lament, and then when you get to the boss fight, it's too high risk, too high reward. Like, it's too high risk. Is Lament. You could do the Lament run. You can do Behemoth and the old gauntlets, strongholds. You can do that, but that's a Titan Pacific thing. Lament on other classes, it's going to do well getting to the boss, but at the boss it won't do so well, so that means you need to do an exploit. Right? Now, if you want to do the exploit, you can, that's fine, anything goes. But on a legit clear, Lament ain't that good, because it's not a ranged weapon. It ain't going to do you any good there. That's why Sleeper is Jack of all trades in this. It's going to work on all your 3 classes. It's putting out massive damage, especially if you start stacking all your buffs. So we melted the 2 barriers, because the barriers are a bit of an annoyance, aren't they, to deal with, because they get on top of each other when you're trying to break their shields and stuff like this. So I've chose to do that this time. I change it up every time I do. It's how I feel. Sometimes I melt the unstoppable while the 2 barriers up. Sometimes I don't. Just depends. As long as you know how to control unstoppables, this is good practice for you as well. If you want to just run around with the unstoppable around this area, you can do that on round 1. Just check his AI. What does he do? Like, some players won't understand how to manipulate these champions, especially unstoppables. You know, like, all you need to think about is when you have the high ground, you've manipulated them because it takes time for them to jump up. By the time they've jumped up, you jump down. Very similar to Lightblade, where you manipulate him. Or walls, corners. These unstoppables don't like corners. They don't understand the concept of round the corner. So you use that. Put a rift round the corner. Show yourself, get a couple of fusion grades, and then peek, and then go behind cover. They do their boot blast. The blast won't penetrate the wall generally. Some walls it does. We've got to finish a kill there. What I'm doing is I'm creating heavy. It's like, think of it like when teams create heavy with special finisher. I'm doing the same thing. I'm creating a lot of heavy on the floor. It gives me more ammo total. Even though I can only carry 13 shots, I've got 3 bricks on the floor, whatever. So I've got more than 13 shots, technically. So, but obviously do not pick those up, those bricks, if you've got 12 or something. So this is critical, right? You need to hurry up. You can't mess around with this, alright? So don't worry about finishers, melt. And power and rift around that corner, fusion grades, and just melt. Then you need to get for the unstoppable, because the unstoppable should be fighting the 2 goblins. That's why you don't kill the goblins, because the goblins that you just saw, because they aggro the unstoppable. If that doesn't happen, right, the champion, the unstoppable, goes to cap point B, which is it would be a nightmare for you. You might wipe because of it. Remember, you're on well, you're slow at killing unstoppables. It's good, consistent, you won't die, but it's slow. Like, look at the time, I'm at 10 seconds now. So you can see it dedicates a lot of time, but if you do it right, if you do everything and you're in the right spot at the right time, you'll do it, it's no problem. Now you want to cap, I would say B is the safer cap right now to do, because you're hoping on cap point C, there's a lot of goblins and there's a void shielded minotaur. Sometimes, if you're lucky on your run, the void shielded minotaur will fight the cabal. Right? That didn't happen on this run, but on your run it might. It's an RNG thing. Also, do not kill the overload that has spawned. After you cap point A, there'll be an overload spawn on the bridge. Do not kill the overload. I've said it 3-4 times this week, I'll say it again. Do not kill the overload, you will ruin your chances for platinum rank. Because there may be a second overload spawn. If that happens, then you get gold and you're messing up your platinum rewards. So don't do it. Just kill the unstoppable and the barrier like I did. So like I said, the Minotaur has not pushed We have not got Void, so we're going to spam Fusion Grades and Sleeper. This is a critical moment. This is where you need... Did you see the health bug there? I hate that. So that's one the downside to Sleeper is that it's buggy with frames. I don't know. And adds regenerating their health. This has been in the game with Sleeper issue ages. Over a year. Over 12 months. Maybe 2 years. Honestly. But the frame thing, with all the frames slowing down, that has gotten worse over recent times. I don't know why. I don't know if it's just a console thing. Because I don't see many people having issues on PC with the whole Sleeper frame rate thing. I think this might be console specific. I'm not sure. I've picked up the Scorch Cannon. These can do your DPS, so you can save ammo. Right? Or you can use a bit of Sleeper. But just make sure that you're leaving this area after this VIP target is killed with maximum shots. Or as good as you can. Play efficiently. You've got Lose and Finisher. If you're somebody running out of heavy and you've got Lose and Finisher on, you're not playing this right. You're doing something wrong. You've got to be. You're not getting finisher kills. There is that mod that gives you overshield when you get a finisher kill, but you don't need that even. Right, that arc mod or whatever. You don't even need that. But if it's something that you want to put on, you can. Just make sure you've incorporated some high energy fire and counter charge. Those mods should be the basis of everybody's setup in this. You should have that on. You really should. It's just too good because it makes your pulse do more damage, makes your scout do more damage to champs. It means you don't even need to use heavy. But obviously you're gonna use heavy because you got to lose and finisher. But it's just gonna melt champions quicker. Right, so the bug. Do not bug out the Nightfall. This is another thing that I keep having to go on about. Let the dialogue finish. Now, I've knocked my dialogue audio off, right? So, just look at the top right. If your ghost is moving around, it means it's AI. Warden AI is talking right now. Let the dialogue finish at each section. The checkpoint bug is right here. You're going to see, watch the left-hand side. Watch it. Did you see? It's disappeared in your objective. That is the point where people run past that and don't let that new checkpoint activate. If you don't let that activate, that is where the bug is, specifically. It's funny because the drifter says, "Have you bugged out the ship?" Is that a nod to the bug, or what? Because it literally says, "Have you bugged out the ship?" Yeah, some people have because they run past. And then they don't get champions. So yeah, do what I'm saying and walk slowly like it's your first clear. And then if you've got checkpoint marker, diamond above the chest, you can claim it. Just that's your rule of thumb. If you don't do it, you ain't getting no Wendigo. It ain't procking. And that's what you're here for, isn't it? Really. So make sure it's literally an extra 30 seconds you're spending. I'm sure we've all got time to spend an extra 30 seconds just doing that. And you'll get it every time. It hasn't bugged out for me for weeks because of this. I haven't had it bug out on me once. Ages. So just make sure you do that. You'll have no bug. So the champion phase, right? Obviously, this is where you want to look at your heavy drops. I got a heavy off that goblin. Very lucky, but, well, it's not lucky per se. I mean, think about it. There's 4 champs. That's 4 finisher kills that you can get. Well, not 4 because you don't want to finish the overload. Because the overload is an issue. You're in the line of fire. Everything's going to hit you and kill you. So you kill the overload with your scout. That's it. All the other champs will kill that overload for you. As long as you tag the overload, make sure you do, of course. And then it's just a case of, I would say, you probably want to take... This is obviously, the unstoppable is going to be a bit of a slowing issue for you here. So what I suggest you do, what I ended up doing, because I was thinking, well, I could just stand up here, use a bit of sleep, but just use my scout and kill the unstoppable from here, but I want to finish a kill on him. So I'm like, well, actually, what I'll do is I won't finish a kill the champion Colossus. I'll melt him because he's worth the melt all day long. Them champs absolutely melt you if you give them a chance. So instead, what I'll do is, I'll get this unstoppable weak first and foremost, a little bit. But we're going to go all the way to the right-hand side of the map. and we're gonna absolutely melt, because Sleeper does melt. If I start actually playing, like not being casual, but actually like try to actually kill the champ as quick as I can, you're melting that champ, especially with your fusion grades, your empowering rifts. You're getting him in one cycle, easy. So that Unstoppable's prepped, right? We don't want to kill Unstoppable, leave him, because you want 13 shots of Sleeper for boss DPS. You must have 13 shots. Well, you could give and take a little bit. There might be a wiggle room for maybe 12 or 11, but that's cutting it. It really is. No less than that. No less than that for consistency. We'll get a grenade now, a grenade down in our rift. We'll do another grade, and then we're just going to melt. We'll get a back crit. Remember, Cabals have back crit that does more damage than a normal crit, so we were able to just do one shot. We'll get a finisher kill, use the Unstoppable's body as resistance against the champ. So I'd reduced the line of sight there, if you noticed. We've got a brick there, we're good. I don't need to finish a kill this barrier in particular. I just need to prep him. Now, like I said, I've done a bit of Elemental Ordnance, Font of Might play here, but did I need to do it? Probably not. It probably wasn't needed. But I didn't know if I did need it or not. I knew the strategy in my mind before I ran this. I knew what I was going to be doing, right? Because this strategy, what I'm doing right now, has been in the game since 2018 when Forsaken came out. This has always been a thing, this trick that I'm going to show you. What the trick involves is manipulating health bars, HP bars. I used to do this on all the old Nightfalls like Garden World, Tree of Probabilities, and all these sort of old Nightfalls. I used to manipulate HP to get enemies to spawn later and stuff like this. Savathun's Song I used to do it with. So what you need to understand is adds are linked to the boss's HP bar. So we'll get a grenade kill, we've got Font of Might, do one shot only, pick a pillar left or right, you must pick a pillar, wait for the boss to TP in middle, no ads will spawn in. If ads do spawn in, it'll tell you at the left hand bottom corner saying ads have spawned in, they haven't. Boss will do solar animation, pop a well immediately, and use as much Sleeper as possible. You can't mess around. Right, there is wiggle room, but try and hit all your crits. If you hit 1 or 2 body shots, you still get away with it. Just throw a couple more grenades than what I did. I didn't throw that many. Boss has now done his solar animation. Ads now spawn, but the boss is dead. So this strategy works incredibly well to easily solo one cycle this boss and get your farms going for Wendigo, solo wise. But I do recommend always farming a team if possible. But this is a solo version of it. I hope you enjoy. Thank you.